If you think a hug is just a polite gesture, you're missing something important. For a woman, a hug is rarely random. It's a quiet emotional signal. And if you know how to read it correctly, you'll understand her feelings long before she ever says a word. People often make the mistake of treating a hug as a universal signal, as if every hug carries the same emotional weight. In reality, a hug is not defined by the action itself, but by the intention behind it. Especially for a woman, physical closeness is rarely accidental. Her intention shapes the meaning of the hug far more than the fact that it happened. Some hugs are social. They are learned behaviors, polite gestures used in greetings or farewells. These hugs are brief, light, and emotionally neutral. The body stays slightly distant, the arms don't fully engage, and there's no lingering moment. In these cases, the hug is fulfilling a social expectation, not expressing a feeling. Misinterpreting such a hug as emotional interest often leads to confusion. Then there are comfort-based hugs. These happen when a woman wants to offer reassurance or emotional support. The intention here is care, not attraction. She may hug you when you're stressed, upset, or vulnerable. The hug might be warm, but it is grounded in empathy rather than desire. Understanding this distinction requires emotional intelligence because comfort can feel intimate even when it's not romantic. Emotion-driven hugs are different. These emerge when a woman feels emotionally connected and safe. The intention is closeness. She doesn't rush. Her body stays present. There's a subtle stillness that signals she's not just touching you, but emotionally engaging with you. This kind of hug reflects an internal state, not a habit. Intention also shows through consistency. A woman who hugs you only in public or group settings may be responding to context rather than feeling. But if her hugs appear in private moments unprompted, they often carry personal meaning. Intention grows clearer when the hug exists outside social obligation. Another layer of intention lies in vulnerability. Physical closeness requires emotional exposure. When a woman chooses to hug someone in a way that feels unguarded, she is temporarily lowering her emotional defenses. This doesn't happen without intention. It happens when she trusts how she will be received. Misreading hugs happens when people focus only on physical signals and ignore emotional context. Intention is shaped by timing, environment, emotional state, and relational history. A hug after laughter carries a different meaning than a hug after silence. The same action can communicate different emotions depending on what led up to it. Understanding intention means paying attention rather than assuming. It means noticing patterns instead of isolated moments. A hug is not a message by itself. It is part of a larger emotional language where meaning is shaped by motive, comfort level, and emotional presence rather than the simple act of touch. A hug is rarely about the arms alone. What truly communicates emotion is how long the hug lasts and what the body does during it. Duration and body language act as silent indicators of emotional depth, often revealing more than spoken words. A woman's body instinctively responds to how she feels, even when she is not consciously trying to send a message. Short hugs usually serve a functional purpose. They are quick, controlled, and emotionally contained. The body remains upright, the arms release almost immediately, and there is little to no pause before pulling away. These hugs are often polite or situational, designed to acknowledge someone rather than emotionally connect with them. The brevity reflects emotional boundaries that are still firmly in place. When a hug lingers, meaning changes. A longer duration indicates emotional presence. Time slows slightly because the woman is comfortable remaining in that moment. She does not feel the urgency to create distance. This pause suggests emotional ease, not distraction. Comfort allows stillness, and stillness allows emotion to surface without pressure. Body positioning adds another layer. When her torso moves closer and her weight subtly shifts forward, it signals engagement. The body naturally moves toward what feels emotionally safe. If her arms wrap fully rather than lightly resting, it reflects involvement rather than formality. These are subconscious movements, not rehearsed gestures. The head and shoulders also communicate emotional depth. Relaxed shoulders suggest trust. A stiff upper body often indicates guardedness. If her head tilts slightly or rests momentarily, it shows emotional surrender in that space. These microsignals happen automatically and are difficult to fake. Breathing patterns during a hug are equally revealing. Shallow breathing often accompanies emotional caution, while slower, deeper breaths indicate relaxation. When her breathing settles during the hug, it means her nervous system feels regulated in your presence. Emotional comfort is not about excitement alone, it is about calm. The release of the hug is as telling as the embrace itself. If she pulls away abruptly, it often means emotional limits have been reached. If the release is gradual, unhurried, and gentle, it reflects reluctance to disconnect. Emotional depth does not rush separation. Context matters, but body language remains consistent. Even in public, emotionally meaningful hugs tend to last a fraction longer than socially necessary. In private, the difference becomes clearer. Duration increases when emotional safety increases. People often underestimate how accurately the body communicates emotion. Words can be filtered, but physical responses are immediate. A woman may not verbalize how she feels, but her body reveals it through timing, closeness, and relaxation. Emotional depth is not dramatic or exaggerated. It is quiet, slow, and grounded. The longer a hug lasts and the more relaxed the body becomes, the more emotional meaning is being expressed through that simple act of closeness. Physical closeness is deeply connected to emotional safety. For a woman, a hug is rarely just physical contact. It is a reflection of how secure she feels in that moment. Trust is not something that is declared openly at first. It is demonstrated subtly through behavior, and a hug is one of the clearest expressions of that internal state. Safety determines how much physical space a woman allows someone to enter. When she hugs, she is temporarily reducing that space. This choice is not random. It is guided by her assessment of whether she feels emotionally and psychologically secure. If that sense of safety is missing, the body instinctively resists closeness regardless of politeness or social expectation. A hug rooted in trust feels different from one driven by obligation. The body relaxes instead of bracing. There is no tension in the shoulders or hesitation in movement. Her posture softens because her nervous system does not perceive a threat. This relaxation is one of the strongest indicators that trust is present. Trust-based hugs also involve presence. She is not distracted, scanning the environment, or preparing to pull away. Her attention stays in the moment. Emotional safety allows her to be fully there without feeling the need to protect herself. This presence cannot be forced or performed. It emerges naturally when trust exists. Timing plays an important role in safety. A woman is more likely to hug someone she trusts during vulnerable moments rather than celebratory ones. When she chooses closeness while tired, stressed, or emotionally open, it signals a deeper level of trust. She is allowing someone into her unguarded emotional state. The way she initiates or responds to the hug also reflects safety. If she moves in without hesitation or adjusts her body to feel more comfortable, it indicates ease. Hesitation, stiffness, or minimal contact often point to emotional boundaries still being maintained. Trust develops through consistency. A woman's hug becomes warmer and more natural over time as her sense of safety increases. Early hugs may feel careful or brief, while later ones become slower and more relaxed. This progression reflects emotional comfort rather than changing intentions. It is important to understand that safety is not about attraction alone. A woman may feel attracted to someone and still not feel safe enough to express closeness. Trust requires predictability, emotional respect, and the absence of pressure. When these conditions are present, physical affection becomes more natural. A hug given from a place of safety is not performative. It is quiet, grounded, and sincere. There is no need to impress or impress upon. The body communicates what words often cannot. When a woman hugs from a place of trust, she is expressing that she feels protected rather than exposed, calm rather than cautious, and emotionally secure rather than defensive. Emotions are often felt long before they are spoken. For many women, emotional connection develops internally and finds expression through behavior rather than words. Physical gestures become a bridge between what is felt and what has not yet been articulated. A hug, in this sense, is not a conclusion, but an early signal of emotional attachment. Verbal expression requires clarity and certainty. Before a woman reaches that stage, she often relies on physical cues to communicate how she feels. These cues feel safer because they allow emotional expression without full verbal vulnerability. A hug becomes a way to test closeness without the risk of explicit declaration. The body reacts faster than language. Emotional attraction activates the nervous system before the rational mind organizes thoughts into words. This is why physical expressions of connection often appear earlier. A woman may not consciously label her feelings yet, but her body already knows what it is drawn to. Hugs that come from emotional connection tend to appear spontaneously. They are not announced or planned. They happen in moments where words feel unnecessary or insufficient. Silence often accompanies them because the emotional exchange does not require explanation. Physical expression also allows emotional ambiguity. A woman can express warmth, care, and attachment without forcing a conversation that might feel premature. This ambiguity protects her emotional boundaries while still allowing connection to deepen. Touch carries reassurance. When a woman feels emotionally connected, she may instinctively seek physical closeness as a form of grounding. A hug provides regulation, comfort, and emotional continuity. It keeps the connection alive without demanding immediate verbal clarity. This pattern is shaped by emotional intelligence rather than avoidance. Choosing physical expression first is not about withholding communication, but about allowing feelings to mature naturally. Words feel more meaningful when they align with internal certainty. A woman's emotional world is often layered. She may feel connected, curious, and cautious at the same time. Physical gestures allow her to express one layer without exposing all of them at once. A hug communicates connection without forcing resolution. Observers sometimes misinterpret this sequence. They expect verbal confirmation before physical closeness. But emotional development does not always follow linear logic. Feelings can be present even when language has not caught up. As emotional connection strengthens, physical expressions often become more frequent and relaxed. This progression reflects growing comfort rather than impulsivity. The body continues to lead while the mind processes at its own pace. A hug in this context is not a substitute for words, but a precursor to them. It signals emotional availability before emotional articulation, allowing connection to form organically without pressure or premature definition. Much of human emotion operates below conscious awareness. Affection, especially in its early stages, often emerges subtly through behavior rather than deliberate action. For a woman, subconscious affection is most clearly revealed through how close she allows someone to be and how comfortable she feels in that proximity. These behaviors are not calculated, they are instinctive responses driven by emotion. Closeness is not only physical distance, but emotional openness. When a woman feels drawn to someone, her body naturally reduces space without conscious effort. She may stand closer, lean in during conversation, or remain physically present longer than necessary. These shifts happen automatically, guided by comfort rather than intention. Comfort is a powerful indicator of subconscious affection. When a woman feels at ease, her body relaxes. She is not monitoring her movements or guarding her reactions. Her gestures become softer, her posture less rigid. This relaxation reflects emotional alignment rather than social performance. Subconscious affection also shows in repetition. When closeness happens consistently rather than occasionally, it signals an underlying emotional pull. She may seek physical proximity without realizing she is doing so. Familiarity feels good, and the body gravitates toward what feels emotionally safe and pleasing. The absence of discomfort is just as telling as the presence of closeness. When a woman remains comfortable during prolonged physical proximity, it indicates trust and emotional ease. There is no internal alarm signaling the need for distance. This calm response reflects a positive emotional association. Small adjustments reveal affection as well. She may unconsciously mirror body language, adjust her position to remain close, or delay moments of separation. These micro behaviors are subtle but meaningful. They reflect alignment rather than coincidence. Subconscious affection often emerges during neutral moments rather than emotionally charged ones. It shows up in everyday interactions where there is no pressure to perform or impress. Comfort thrives in simplicity. A relaxed hug, a natural lean, or unforced closeness communicates more than dramatic gestures. This type of affection is rarely verbalized early on because it exists beneath conscious labeling. A woman may not actively identify what she feels, but her body responds in ways that reveal emotional attachment. The nervous system reacts before the mind assigns meaning. Misinterpretation occurs when people expect affection to always be intentional or obvious. Subconscious affection is quiet. It does not announce itself. It expresses through ease rather than intensity. Understanding this requires observation without assumption. Closeness that feels natural and unguarded is rarely accidental. It is the body responding to emotional familiarity and attraction without needing conscious approval. When a woman's comfort increases around someone, it reflects an internal shift toward emotional safety and connection that has already taken place beneath the surface of awareness. A hug is a versatile emotional gesture. Its meaning shifts depending on the emotional state behind it. For a woman, a hug can quietly communicate attachment, offer reassurance, or express a sense of emotional claiming without the need for verbal affirmation. These meanings are often layered rather than singular. Attachment-based hugs are rooted in emotional bonding. They occur when a woman feels a sense of belonging with someone. These hugs feel familiar and grounding. There is no urgency, only presence. Attachment expresses itself through consistency rather than intensity. The hug becomes a shared emotional language rather than a one-time gesture. Reassurance-driven hugs serve a different purpose. They appear when emotions need regulation. A woman may hug to calm herself, to soothe the other person, or to stabilize the emotional environment. In these moments, the hug is less about connection and more about emotional support. It communicates care without requiring explanation. Emotional claiming is more subtle and often misunderstood. It does not imply possession or control. Instead, it reflects a psychological acknowledgement of emotional closeness. When a woman hugs someone in a way that feels slightly more intentional in social settings, it can signal recognition of an emotional bond. This is not about display, but about internal alignment. The context of the hug reveals its purpose. A hug after separation often signals attachment. A hug during emotional distress signals reassurance. A hug in shared spaces may indicate emotional claiming. The same action communicates different meanings depending on timing and environment. Body positioning further clarifies intent. Attachment-based hugs often involve full body closeness and stillness. Reassurance hugs may include gentle pressure or rhythmic movement. Emotional claiming hugs may linger just long enough to establish presence without drawing attention. These forms of hugging are not mutually exclusive. A single hug can carry reassurance and attachment simultaneously. Emotional experiences are complex, and physical expressions reflect that complexity. Meaning unfolds through nuance rather than absolutes. It is important to recognize that emotional claiming is not conscious strategy. It arises from emotional certainty rather than intent to signal others. A woman who feels emotionally connected may naturally express that connection physically without evaluating how it appears. Misreading these signals often leads to confusion. People may interpret reassurance as romantic interest or overlook attachment because it feels subtle. Understanding requires awareness of emotional patterns rather than isolated gestures. Hugs that consistently convey warmth, presence, and familiarity often indicate emotional attachment. Hugs that appear during moments of emotional need indicate reassurance. Hugs that subtly reinforce closeness in shared environments suggest emotional claiming.